My name is Gary D. Hart, and I am the host of the Accounting Insiders podcast and the publisher of Insightful Accountant. Today is May the 13th, 2026, and I always like to put that date stamp on there just so that if somebody's listening to this in September of 2026, what we say today might be still be true, but it might be outdated. So I think it's important just to kind of put that little stamp on there so that people know when this conversation took place. And this conversation is taking place, like I said, on May the 13th between myself, Gary Dehart, and Tony Roessler, who is the National Business Development Manager for Sharp Business Services. And it looks like he's sitting in San Diego, but he's really sitting in Greenville. He already let the cat out of the bag on that one. But so Tony, thank you so much for being here and
Thank
just
you for
taking a few
having me.
minutes. Yeah, taking a few minutes just to talk about. We're going to go through a wide discussion, a little bit about Sharp, the company. I mean, everybody's heard of it, but I bet there's a lot of things that Sharp does that most people don't know. But we're going to really dive into cybersecurity, what it is that firms, since we primarily are serving the public accounting profession, what is it that firms need to be aware of? Kind of what are the trends? What are you seeing that's taking companies out, if you will? But also, what information can you share with them that they can share with their clients? So that's just some of the things we're going to talk about. But again,
Yes, sir.
thanks for being here. And so before we dive into that, the two things, your background, and then just tell us a little bit about Sharp. Again, like I said, we know Sharp. I think everybody pretty much has had some exposure to Sharp at some point and probably don't even know it. But so what's your history?
So my history is I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, so got into IT technology fairly early, and over the last 20 years migrated more into the security aspect of technology, just making sure my customers, my prospects are safe. They're doing their due diligence as far as what they're checking on, what's coming into their information technology environment, and how they can distribute and communicate effectively and appropriately. The reason I've come on board at Sharp is a full-blown technology company. So everything from AV equipment to your printers to managed IT services, we have a complete gamut of solutions really to help improve the process for businesses communicating and doing business with each other.
Okay. And that any size parameters on that?
Really, where we play is in the SMB market for my particular unit, but
Okay.
Sharp can be as big or as small of a footprint or work with multiple size clients. Whatever you need, we can help you out. It might be two or three people who might want to set up a conference room, or it could be a large enterprise accountant firm that is looking for effective ways to print with our solutions. So we
Okay.
fill that entire gamut across the board. And it's really great working for a technology department that puts technology, or I'm sorry, security first.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Is so you mentioned print. Is that kind of the typical first touch point for Sharp within a company?
Historically, the print solutions have been our first touch point, as well as our AV equipment. 12 years ago, we started the managed IT services where we really play in that SMB space really well. So, to your point earlier, everybody's heard of Sharp. We're a technology company.
Hmm.
And anything on that communication continuum where we're going to help people effectively communicate and more securely, that's where Sharp's real play is.
Gotcha. And so so your day to day, you're out in the markets. Are you dealing with just a wide gamut of customer types, business sizes and professions, or do you kind of focus into a particular area?
Really, business size is kind of obsolete, but we appeal to every vertical because security is that age-old question: what keeps you up at night?
Right.
Everybody's worried about, hey, we've fortified our network with hardware solutions, but how are we working with our employees to making sure they're not our weakest link? So anywhere in that gamut, we do a lot with professional services. So our law firms, our accounting firms, things like that. That's really a sweet spot for us, simply because your business is to help your clients achieve financial success And it's not necessarily based or geared around IT. So that's that supplement or that complement where Sharp really can come into your business and help you fortify that network, but also provide the client satisfaction. It's everybody's worst day when you have to wake up and tell your clients that you got breached and their data might be out there.
Right. Yeah. I was doing some contract work with a company. This was probably about 8 years ago, and it's a pretty big company, and they had a lot of data and a lot of sensitive data, and they got breached, and that is not, like you said, not a good conversation to have.
No, it's
Uh,
probably one of the worst days of your professional career when
yeah,
that happens.
yeah, and super expensive, and the amount of time. I couldn't even tell you what it ended up costing them, but just the amount of time alone that they spent on it. I don't even know if they could count it because it was so much. So what do we do? I mean, we're all data first, right?
Right.
Which you could argue that's good. You could argue that it's bad. I'll keep my opinion to myself. But since we're data first as really globally, what do we do? I mean, what are just some of the very simple things that I can do to secure myself, and then two, from a business perspective, what are the key things we need to be paying attention to?
Well, the easiest thing is password changes. If you're a independent contractor, things like that, make sure your passwords are changed. Update them. It's best practice every 60 days. Use a passphrase. Don't change your password from your anniversary date and just add a one to it. Make them
Right.
complex. If you're a business, installing or implementing MFA is another simple way to thwart a lot of easy, hacking activity. The other thing that's really important we're seeing a lot of is train your employees, whether it's a once a year or an ongoing training, which is what I recommend. Make sure, since email and other technology has really generated a aspect of something came into my inbox, let's get it out as soon as possible. It's that reaction. Make sure your employees are trained to recognize those nuances, but also have a system in place where, for instance, if Gary emails me as an end user and says, "Hey, I need you to wire transfer money," that there's a double check in place. This is irregular. So let me pick up the phone and call Gary. That 5-second phone call will save you tens and thousands of dollars. And also importantly, if IT is not your foray, if you don't have a IT professional on staff, find a partner, find somebody like Sharp or another local MSP who's really going to help you navigate those nuances, making sure your network is secure from both a hardware standpoint as well as that social engineering standpoint.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I think just the training is so key, right?
Correct.
And we've seen it at the national level in politics, right? Where you know people get spoofed. And do you and I have not talked about this. We didn't talk about this in the green room, but as you were talking, it made me think about it. Are you familiar with the WISP, the Written Information Security Plan?
I'm sure not. No.
Yeah, go look it up because from I think from what you guys do in this profession, so basically it's IRS. I might get this a little wrong, but generally speaking, IRS mandates that anybody in the financial services, and again, that's a big broad anybody, is required to have a WISP, a Written Information Security Plan. And through that plan, there's all different data points, and training is some of the things they are supposed to do. You're supposed to have again, a written plan that says, here's how we're securing data, here's how we are protecting our clients' information, and it goes through, the full gamut. So I think um, from you guys dealing in professional services, it's a good thing to know about. But also, I think it's probably a tool that you guys could help the profession across the board, accountants, banking, financial planners, lawyers, all those people build a strong WISP with checks and balances in it. So check that out.
Okay, sure will.
So,
So yeah, and to that point as well, is if a company has cyber liability insurance, those simple checklists that your provider is going to ask you to adhere to, we can
mhm,
help you achieve those as well.
got it. And what does that look like? Are you helping me achieve that through, Is there, let's say I have an office, is there, are we just doing this remotely digital with the team, or do you have somebody that's coming in and leading classes? How does that look like? What is the process?
As far as cyber liability insurance and things like that, when you get your statement and it gives you check boxes, it's pretty simple form. What we help you do is make sure that, if it says you're required to have security awareness training, that you have that solution set implemented in your environment. If there's something for email filtering, which most of them are going to have, are we backing up your data in case something does happen, whether it's a natural disaster or a cyber crime? How fast can you recover that data? And how long not only are you going to be down and not able to service your customers, but what's the potential of getting that data back and it being exposed out on the public internet? So that's really what that looks like. As far as us being a full service managed IT company, what we really do is we troubleshoot everything remotely, but we come on site for any of those installs, any new users, those types of things. So it's a combination of remote work for what we can push to your machine, so the remote monitoring and management, but also for those projects, we're actually going to come on site and make sure everything's implemented, hooked up correctly, and those types of things, so that you can go to your business and it's the least impactful for you.
Gotcha. Okay. One of the notes that I had to talk about was around targeting, kind of what's taking place. Is there anything specifically right now taking place around targeting where you're seeing again best practices to prevent it, or any common threads and who's being targeted and how?
Uh, Over the last 30 days, we've seen a lot of educational institutions being targeted.
Hmm.
And a lot of that is because it's coming up on summer. So their technology usually is at least 11 months old at this point because that's their budget year starts July 1. So we're seeing those, and you can read about those in the news. There was a large breach that happened with a lot of public universities through one of their educational softwares that happened on earlier this month. The other thing that we're seeing a lot of is organizations, much like the accounting firms, where you have a client list. And so if somebody can spoof or hack into your account, they can get your client list and create all kinds of havoc. So if, for instance, if you're a financial institution, you have a lot of high wealth clients. If I can get that list from you, and again, think your elderly population. So my son, who's younger, has grown up with the internet. He's used to seeing, there's a princess in Nigeria, things like that. So he knows those are garbage. But that population that might not be as internet or social media savvy, that is a target.
Hmm.
And usually, if I can get your customer list, not only am I going to get your customers, but I'm also going to get their financials. And it's going to help me develop a more targeted list of individuals to go after or even companies to go after.
Gotcha. Yep. And then what about the kind of the process that um, of really educating our people? I mean, as we touched on it a little bit already, but I mean, you can tell me 1,000 times to change my password, but
Right.
am I going to do it until you force me? Probably not. What does that look like?
So with email programs, security awareness training programs, the best programs that I've seen are repetitive. So we'll send out a spoofing email to your users and we'll baseline your email. So if 70% of your organization falls for that spoof email, then we make everybody take a class.
Okay.
And then what we do is we resend another spoof email. And hopefully you see a gradual improvement. But it's the repetition of, okay, there might be spoof emails coming in. This is what to look for. Hey, from these recent events of spoofed emails, I know to be lookout for vishing, which is people texting my phone, or it's, hey, this is a targeted attack where somebody's trying to get me to wire transfer money or changing my account number. But it's a lot like working out. It's you've got to continually do it to be
Hmm.
at the place that you need to be.
That's it's a great analogy, right? And so
Yeah,
the less I work out, the less strong I
yeah.
am, right? The weaker I am. Um, from a what do you, any other key issues that you're seeing like across your customer base? and especially if you have any that are specific in public accounting, is there anything that kind of just recurring?
A lot of recurring themes are, we're not updating our machines. We've gotten busy. I know it's the end of the tax season, but during
Mhm.
that tax season up until April 14th, where you're really focused on customer satisfaction, getting everything done, meeting those deadlines, a lot of times our internet savviness, when we do things in a rush, we don't take the time out to make sure we're having good security hygiene, would be the best way I
Yeah,
can put it. So we see a lot of those breaches go through in that time. Also, what we see is a lot of people thinking, I'm too small. My organization is not going to be a target. But if you think about some of the breaches that have happened over the last decade, usually it's that smaller account that gets broken into, where some, nefarious player gets into their account and then targets one of their larger customers from that account.
yeah,
So, and we call that pivoting. But if you think about the data that you might have for some of your larger customers, it really is a easy way to expose a Fortune 500 company if I can go after somebody who might have fallen off everybody else's radar.
yeah, yeah. That's and a lot of smaller companies too, right? Just don't
Right,
have the knowledge, don't have the support system in place, or like you said, I think one of the big ones, right? It's just not updating. It's a simple solution, right? Just not updating.
right,
We get the thing from Microsoft saying, "Hey, update." I guess you need to
correct.
make sure it's legit and then update. But
That's
um,
exactly it. But yeah, with most accounting firms and things like that, we're trying to meet a deadline. And those things like patching, if you don't have a third party provider, those things go by the wayside. And before you know it, you're 5, 6 revisions out of date.
mm,
Your updates haven't happened, and the malicious players are noticing that, and that's what they're targeting.
gotcha. Yep. Um, the You had mentioned also, this was actually when we were doing our green room discussion, um, an assessment, like where you guys, something that you offer, right? Just kind of as a tool. There's two things that you mentioned actually when we had our initial call. And I hope, and if I'm speaking out of turn, we'll cut it out. One was assessment, and two was possibly being able to, have an accounting firm host their clients at at a luncheon, kind of a lunch and learn about this topic.
Those are both great tools that Sharp offers. Is if you're interested to see where your security is at, reach out to Sharp, reach out to, one of our partners. And what we'll do is we'll run a network assessment. Not only will we evaluate your network, but also everything that is a technology component in that. Sharp is a leader in providing printer security all the way through our AV equipment. So it's a holistic look at your technology environment, and we'll run those for you. Just make sure we're up to par, give you any glaring errors, and see what we can help to do as far as fixing those things that are immediate. What we do with a lot of our customers is they'll have open houses for their clients, and it can be a lunch and learn, it can be an after hours event. But if you host your clients, we'll come in and give them a security presentation, letting them know that, hey, your diligence starts here. These are things to be on the lookout for. It's simple things where if you get a email with a link on it and you hover over that link, it'll actually show you where it goes. So if you hover before you click, it might save you some time
Mm,
as far as going into a malicious site. But just those updates of what we can do to be security conscious. And it's a good refresher course, but it also helps you evangelize good internet hygiene or security hygiene out to your clients as well. So it's a free benefit to them.
okay. And then I don't know if we ever said like a hard number or if there is a hard number, but the target size, like for an accounting firm, like to for them, I mean, obviously everybody has this problem, has an issue that we
Right.
need to deal with, but for Sharp to really, well, I don't want to say anything that's offensive in the size, but is a two-person firm somebody or firm size that Sharp would deal with, or do you really deal with 10 and up? Is there a hard and
We
fast
start
number?
off at about that 10 and up.
Okay.
Now, we
Yeah.
do have smaller companies that are growing, that we're helping them with their other needs and things like that. So it's almost a case by case basis. But really, up until about that 100, 250 employee mark, that's really our sweet spot in there.
Okay.
So in between or I'm sorry, 10 and 250,
Okay.
that's really where we help companies, get the most bang for their buck or an immediate ROI on our services.
I got you. Yeah, and you would work with smaller, but a lot of times I imagine it's just that the dollars don't make sense for a smaller firm
That's correct.
to be able to do that because it'd be just a bigger lift.
Right.
If people wanted to contact you directly, what would be the best path?
Oh, very easy via email, anthony.ressler. So Roessler at sharpusa.com.
Okay. And then you guys have offices around the country of people do what you do?
Yes, sir, we sure do. So we've got 17 locations throughout the country. And also, if you're in a location, we have partners throughout the United States who we can refer customers to as well.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, and this may I know we've said Sharp a lot and we've talked specifically around Sharp and what Sharp does and what Tony does. This is not a paid advertisement. This is not something that Sharp paid. They actually had contributed some content to us and it made a lot of sense to have a follow-up conversation because this is a topic that impacts every one of us. And there was one thing you said when we had our planning call a few weeks ago, and that was it was on the password changing, but it was on, I think you asked, when was the last time you changed your banking password, right?
Right.
So if you don't learn anything else from this call or from this podcast, go and change your password to your personal bank and anything that has money associated with it, um,
Yeah.
because somebody's trying to get it right now as we
Yeah.
speak, right?
No, that's exactly it. Because when we go out and do these talks or these presentations, you will change your password for your company. But a lot of times people forget that personal accounts and they have the same password for their bank, etc., that they've had for 20, 25 plus years. So that's out there as well. So it's a best practice when your company asks you to change your password, go ahead and change those passwords on your personal accounts.
Absolutely. Great insight. Anything else that we haven't talked about that we were supposed to talk about? I think we covered most of our
We
high
covered
levels.
most of it. Yeah, you did
Yeah.
great.
Well, there we go. That's right. I don't think either one of us said anything that'll get us in too much trouble. So I think we're good. But again, if anybody wants to reach out to you one more time, shout out on the email address.
It's Anthony.Ressler, and that's spelled Roessler at sharpusa.com.
Very good. And then hopefully we'll be able to get some more content out of you, maybe on a quarterly basis again, because this is always changing, right? The threat is always there, but it's always changing. It morphs into something else tomorrow.
That's exactly it. Well, look forward to being back. I had a great time. Thanks, Gary.
Absolutely. Talk to you soon. Thank you much.
Thank you.